Welcome to this brief video on how to overcome math anxiety and be successful in your math course. So, do you have a math phobia? Have you always disliked math? These may be some of the words that you've experienced feeling and expressions that you have maybe made yourself in association with math. A lot of times we have phobias, especially about academic subjects, because of past experiences we've had that were negative. The thing to keep in mind is, in order for us to grow and accomplish anything, we have to move beyond our fears and address the issues that have created those negative feelings in the first place. I like this quote, everything you want is on the other side of fear. Meaning, if we move beyond our fears and push through those feelings, we can often find success and accomplishment in doing so. So how do we define success? The thing always happens that you really believe, and the belief in a thing makes it happen. That quote by Frank Lloyd Wright really emphasizes the importance of being intentional about our thoughts and actions, and in being positive in what we think and how we do things. Who we decide we are creates what we do to back up that belief. Everything that we profess and think is a manifestation of our thoughts and feelings about ourselves. So we have to move beyond the restrictive belief systems that we have developed about ourselves in some kind of an avenue, such as math, so that we can move beyond it and start professing that we are good at math and that we can do it. If you begin with the end in mind, in full faith about who you really are, then the willpower to change the habit comes with ease and remains intact with work. You can work through this process and become more successful in mathematics classes if you remember your strengths, your weaknesses, and develop a plan of action. We're going to help you with that in this presentation. Another nice quote that I've seen about fear that I really like is this one. A boat is safe in the harbor, but this is not the purpose of a boat. So we can just say, I'm going to avoid all my math classes if I possibly can because we're afraid of them. But the idea is, the whole point of us as human beings is to go out and explore and to grow. And so if you restrict yourself based on what you're afraid of, whether it be an academic subject or anything in real life, then you're limiting yourself and your experiences and not able to move beyond those things and grow and develop as a person. So let's talk about what actually happens in your brain when you're afraid. This quote is a very academically sourced quote. It comes directly from this article on neuroscience behind stress and learning. And what it tells us is that anytime there is a negative impact of stress and anxiety on the brain, then any of those things such as executive functioning and memory and any kind of a positive engagement is not going to happen. So what happens is, as you get anxious, your amygdala, which is a tiny little part of your brain, kicks in and it tells your body to either fight or run. So as you get anxious about something, even though it's an academic subject that doesn't depend on your physical safety, let's say, or doesn't affect it, what happens is your brain doesn't know the difference. And so it starts getting stressed out and it starts telling you to either run or fight. That chemical process that kicks in actually shuts down your prefrontal cortex and prevents you from being able to process cognitive functions. And that in turn is a cyclical cycle and a process that keeps you from actually doing the things that you need to do, especially with math. So as you get excited, as you get anxious, your brain starts shutting down the areas that it actually needs to use for you to be successful in math. So that very act is going to prevent you from doing what you need to do. So learning how to control that is what's important. So learning doesn't happen when your mind is stressed. If you've ever noticed, if you get really stressed about anything, your brain just kind of wants to shut down. That's why. So what's going to help you? What's going to help you is if you can redesign your brain and think about having fun with what you're doing, because fun is actually what does promote learning and remembering. So as you learn to conquer your math fears, ask yourself the following questions and try to actually think hard about them. Why am I afraid? Is it because I was told I wasn't any good at math? Is it because I had a bad teacher at some point in time? Where did that fear start? So once you've recognized that, you can move beyond to the next step. Think about what the worst thing is that could happen. A lot of times our fear and anxiety is produced by just imagining the absolute catastrophic worst scenario. And many times this isn't a realistic view. If that happened, what would I do to recover? Many of the uncertainties in life that create anxiety are based on a lack of planning and action. So if you plan ahead and think, okay, if I were to fail a test, what would I do to recover from that failure and move beyond and move forward? Having a plan of action will help reduce your anxiety levels considerably. And can I look at this another way? Am I being reasonable in what I'm thinking? Or am I placing too much pressure on myself to earn an A when a C shows mastery of the content and will really be a success for me? What would I gain? What could you get from conquering your math fear? I can only see one thing happening. You could become more confident as a student, and that's a good thing. So don't be an anxious, emotionally expressive person when it comes to math and totally freak out about it. We don't want you to be in this place right here. What we want is for you to be this guy, okay? Cool, calm, and collected, and able to logically process what you need to do to be successful. So the answer is habit. Your brain can't tell the difference between a good and a bad habit. It just knows that it's a pattern of action that has been instituted. So what you can do is you can learn to change habits or ignore them or replace them with other better, more positive habits. So what happens when you've got a habit going on is that your brain just completely shuts down any part of its functioning that requires it to think logically and participating in that decision-making process. So form good habits. Identify the bad habits you have about mathematics. Speak them out loud, write them down, and then identify positive ways that you can replace those habits with good things. I have a habit of procrastinating on my homework. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make a plan so that I have to work on my homework for at least 15 minutes a day until I get it finished. That's a reasonable plan, and that's a good habit to get into that would replace a bad habit. So unless you deliberately fight a habit and find new routines to replace them, you're not going to break this pattern. So if you want to be successful, identify your bad habits, identify your fears, make a plan of action to address those things, and fulfill it. You got to take action, okay? So decide what's going to work best for you, do them, give them a try, and then trust that you're going to be successful once you do that. If you would like some more inspiration, I would suggest that you take a look at these two videos. The first one is a very short video produced by Khan Academy called You Can Learn Anything. It's less than a minute and it takes no time at all to remind people how hard it is to start out life as a baby and learn all the things that we actually do learn. It just goes to show that you really can learn anything if you put your mind to it. And then this video on the importance of play by Kevin Carroll and how important it is to have a good time and how that is an important part of the learning process as well. So in order to succeed in math, you have to engage with it. You have to play with it. And even if that process is frustrating for you, the more you work at it and the more you participate in it, the better you'll get. Okay? So jump in, have fun, and overcome